One of those parts where they don't say anything in the manual about the steps. Like I said, 10mm bolts. I was actually wrong. There's two 10mm bolts on top of these, which are, or no, they're 8mm bolts on top of the regular 10mm valve head stem. Alright, and 1, 2, and then 1, 2. So, like I said, I did over there, the same as I did here, there and there. I put the 10mm bolts in there as well on that side and as well on this side, which the bracket, but the bracket stays on that side. So it made it very difficult to get it off because, as you can see, this right here sits on top of that, and just to pull it up, this connector here is kind of looped around. This big connector right there, it's looped around this plastic wiring harness retainer. This whole retainer is one piece. It connects and it sits in there. So you have to get all the bolts off in order to do that. That's why I suggest not trying to do just the driver's side first and then the passenger side. You want to do it together because they don't say anything about taking this off. So these are the last two bolts that are holding on this valve cover. This one, that one, and that one. So I'm going to go ahead and crack those. But what I did is I kind of just fished in here, pulled up, and just gave it, a little wiggle room. Kind of wiggled this plug, and that gave me enough room to go ahead and move this whole retainer off. All right. So if you've removed all the bolts, this is what your schematic diagram for the valve cover bolts should look like. You got your 8mm nuts, and then all around you got your 15 or your 10mm bolts with rubber grommets that go on them. And just looking back at that cylinder there, you can see right there oil has come through. And it's seeping up, and I did have oil in that well. You have to be careful. This old brittle plastic shit gets chipped off. Actually, a piece fell right down in that hole, so I'll get that once the valve cover's off. But you got to make sure that you just try to be careful here in this application. So we're gonna go ahead and try to lift off this valve cover. So I'm going to get my diagram out of the way, place it next to this one. Okay. And I'm going to take this one, which has all the nuts on it, and go over here. How they say it's best to work on the right side to build confidence before you do the left side, so that's what I did. Now, I'm going to try to position this camera to where it doesn't fall off, and I'm able to show you how to pull this off here. I think that's pretty secure. Alright, here goes nothing. So it feels like the valve cover is on there still pretty good. Just been sealed for years and years. I'm wondering what's the best way to break the RTV that they have sealed, because you can see right there, that's the RTV that you're supposed to put when you put the new gasket, and that's the black stuff, not the red stuff. So I'm gonna pause the video and see if I can break it loose. Yeah, that RTV sealant right there, it sticks it pretty good, and it's a 12-year-old car, so I put a little elbow grease in it, It popped off. Now just the back as well as RTV, and you don't want to put any kind of any screwdriver in there and try to pry it open. That'd be a bad idea. So a little elbow grease in it. That side popped, and this is why I've tied all these cables here, because they're just in the way. And as you can see, I know on the V8 you have to remove this fuel line now. They designed it so you can work around the fuel line. It's just a tight spot, and hopefully the valve cover will come off that way, which I'm still dealing with some cables. I'll work some things out of the way. Okay, we're almost there. It is a very, very tight fit. It looks like just this harness here is in the way. So keep working it. See what's hitting it. Okay, so as I lift it up, these cables are getting in the way, so I'm gonna, well, my zip tie was not on the right way. Let me click that in. Well, my zip tie just failed. Yeah, it definitely failed. Every time I try to put some tension on the zip ties, they bust. So I just got some rope, and you want to do this because when you go to put this cover back on, you don't want anything in the way, and you're already working with limited space with this firewall plastic wiring harness bracket just already kind of in the way. All these hoses and your throttle cables and all that junk is just in the way. So let's see if we can get this out. I've tied this pretty good. Don't go crazy tight so you start kinking and messing stuff up. But I went ahead and tied it good. Just going to try to work this thing out. Okay, so the back, you want to tilt the back out first, and then the front. And there's your valve cover, my friends. So you can see, yeah, it just looks like there's oil above the gasket and areas like that. So this is where your oil is actually seeping in to your spark plug wells, right around that area. So I'm going to set this to the side. Alrighty, there's my engine. Maybe that's the camshaft, the drivetrain, or not the drivetrain, but I'm not, I don't know a lot about engines, but it looks pretty good, man. And here's our gasket, which this actually looks like it's in decent shape, but you're damn straight I'm going to go ahead and change it. So I'll just get some close-ups and we'll take some pictures, but before we do that I'm going to wash my hands and get cleaned up.